This particular syndicated cartoonist has a lot to say about the issues that this generation is being forced to grapple with. He's a graduate of the University of Maryland, and as I said earlier, has a voice every day that's being heard and offering a perspective on the pages of our newspapers that has never been there before. He's done something historic. I mentioned to these young people, mentioned to you, I guess yesterday or the day before, that there are two kinds of folk in the world: originals and repeaters. You don't want to be a repeater. Folk who don't have an original thought of their own. All they do is go through life repeating stuff they've read, repeating stuff they've heard. But you have to be an original thinker, and you have to be a person who thinks critically. He does this every day, and he makes us laugh in the process. I've always believed if you can get folk to laugh, then you can get folk to listen. And there's no better example that I am aware of a person who gets us to laugh and to listen every single day in newspapers all around this country and indeed around the world. And he is part of the best and brightest that Black America has ever produced. Please welcome the creator of the Boondocks, Aaron McGruder.
Tavis, thanks. He's very kind. Thank you to all of you for being here. Thanks to the audience for C-SPAN. I've got my phone here to keep track of time, so if it goes off, I'm not trying to be, not trying to be a baller. I'm just trying to keep track of the time. So today we're talking about redefining the image, which, is comforting to me, because I think oftentimes when we start to examine politics, in particular, public policy, what's going on in the world, sometimes those of us who lean towards the political left fail to understand the importance of image. This is a problem which costs us a great deal, both in terms of money, our cultural situation, and our political situation. I don't know how important it was decades past, before my time and before your time. But what people consistently underestimate today is how the nature of mass media has transformed society. 10 people control 90% of everything you see, read, and hear in this country. 10 people. And they want to tell you that Cuba has state-run media. 10 people. Who are those 10 people? Well, you can look them up. They're not hard to find. That, in and of itself, is problematic. When you consider that these 10 people all need permission from the U.S. government in order to have licenses, in order to buy other corporations, in order to do all the nefarious things they like to do, then you really understand what state-run media is. If Martin Luther King were alive today and he were in his 20s, nobody would know who he was, because he would never get on TV. That's the difference between 2003 and 1953 or 1963. We live in a completely different era where information is more tightly controlled than it has ever been in the history of this country. What that really means is somebody can tell you black is white and night is day, and you will believe it. And not only that, the bigger the lie, the more likely you are to believe it. They told you for how many months that the attacks on New York and the Pentagon were the responsibility of Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda. They told you that over and over and over and over again. And you know what? You believed it. Until they wanted to invade Iraq. Then they told you it was Saddam who did it. They just told you a completely different thing. And you know what? Nobody said anything. Everyone, oh, okay, sure. Now, you guys are smart, so I know some of y'all had to be asking questions. Some of y'all had to go, oh, this ain't sitting right. But the vast majority of Americans believed it. How many of y'all are old enough to remember, well, I guess none of you are old enough to remember Iran-Contra. I'm barely old enough to remember Iran-Contra. But I won't get into that. There is such a limited amount of truth available for you to acquire, to digest, and to apply. This is not an accident, and it's not just a conspiracy against black people. This is the world in which you live today. As leaders, the most important thing that you have to remember is that the nature of power changes. These people who run the world, they may not be good people. In fact, they're really, really bad people. But they're not stupid people. Rarely do they make the same mistakes twice. Meaning, whatever worked before, whatever strategies, whatever tactics, whatever plans were really successful 30, 40 years ago, they're not going to work anymore. They've learned those lessons. We're coming up on the anniversary of the March on Washington. One of the most memorable moments in American history. Something that has ingrained itself in all of American culture. Because we can look, we can remember all of us seeing the footage of all those people, Martin Luther King, the speech, the singing, all that stuff. It was a big deal. Then we had the Million Man March, 1995. We've seen that. That was the response. It wasn't that big a deal. It was a big deal for like a week. Y'all are probably too young to remember that, but you know, we all went, we felt good. It was like a moment. But there was something that felt a little old. And then there was a Million Mom March and a Million Black Women. There's been like 500,000 people marches since then. To the point that when we're on the verge of the Iraq War, no, actually after the Iraq War started, some 400,000 people march in New York City. And they don't even get on the news. This is what I mean when I say that the nature of power has changed. The Civil Rights Movement, what was so amazing about it was that there was a brand new tactic. Mass media was new. Television was new. And they realized that they could use this new thing to their advantage. That they would be showing people the oppression that black Americans face, and it would be beamed across the world. It would be the first time these images were being seen in this nature. And they used it masterfully, and it worked wonderfully. But in 2003, nobody cares about your march and your picket sign. And even if they did, they'll never know what happened. Because you won't get on the news. This is what image is. This is what we're talking about. Wrestling control of information from those that have it and those that don't want to be honest. Those that want to use that information to put a stranglehold on the entire planet. So those same people who are, you know, flipping through and they're watching Fox News and they're watching CNN and they're watching MSNBC and they're being told how popular the president is and all of that stuff. Then they flip a few channels over to BET and they watch You Act Like Idiots. And that's all they see. They only see you acting like idiots. And you can get mad if you want. You can go, that's the media. Okay, yeah, it's the media, but they're still watching you act like idiots. And every week there's somebody new on television acting like an idiot. And they look like you, and they dress like you, and they talk like you. Are y'all mad at that? But are you really mad? And if you are mad, the question becomes, what do you do about it? The interesting thing when you talk about the media and the media and the media and the media and the media, and they making us look bad. Well, one, please take responsibility for yourself, because, you know, those are real black people up there looking bad. But two, it's really good to have these discussions of the media's doing this, the media's doing that. Well, guess what? Media's been doing the same thing for a minute, and they're going to keep doing it. So now that we've established that, we actually have to get into the very tough and unpleasant discussion of how to actually change the media. To that, you have to understand how the media works. You have to understand who these companies are that control everything you see and hear and read. You got to know about Viacom. You got to know about Sony. You got to know about News Corp, Disney, Bob Johnson. You have to understand the system that produces the images that you see. Many of us like to think it's a bunch of white people sitting around in a smoky room going, I wonder how to make black people look bad. I moved out to Hollywood about 4 years ago. And let me tell you, I wish it were that simple. But it is nowhere near that simple. The first thing to remember is that what drives this country is money and profit. Generally, most things that are going down today are going down because of money and profit. Absolutely. The wars, the peace, stocks, and every single TV show you watch. Believe me, what you see on television when you turn on CNN and you turn on MSNBC, that's entertainment. News is what people try to suppress. News is what they do not want you to know. What you're seeing is fun and games. What you're seeing is what's put out there to keep you stupid. Now, I know that sounds really conspiratorial and all of that stuff, but let me tell you, I've been in Hollywood for 4 years now. I've been working in the newspaper industry for a bit longer. Information is controlled. Absolutely on every level. And then I have these discussions and people go, oh, right. Like the White House is really calling people, telling newspapers, don't run this story. They are. The White House calls newspapers. The White House calls musicians. Are you going to put a video out? Nah. We don't think you should do that. Don't get it twisted. It's that controlled. Everything you see is there because someone wants you to see it. So you figure out how the system works, and then you figure out, well, what's motivating the people behind the system? Why do they want you to see certain things? Why do they want black people looking silly? Well, it's simple. I mean, how many people have seen The Matrix? How many people have seen the second Matrix? Well, you got to see the second Matrix. Dr. West is in the second Matrix. The point is that struggles used to be organized and planned a bit differently. You used to be able to go, and there were communities, there were institutions in the community. People would go to a church, or they would go someplace, they would organize, they would meet, the movement would build, the ideology would spread, and action would take place. Why doesn't that happen now? Because everyone's getting their information from mass media. 90%. It's coming from there. So if it's not on TV, it doesn't exist. It's irrelevant. I can't knock on your door and say, brother, sister, join the revolution. You will laugh at me. You're like, what the hell are you thinking? I'm not joining anything. Who are you? I'm calling the police. I was having an argument with some young people in Cuba about this very thing. Why is there no revolution in the United States? Why is there no armed revolution like we had in Cuba? Simple. Americans have television and drugs. We're a little comfortable. Actually, you know what? We're really comfortable. And black people, we have it bad, and we somewhat self-aware, but we don't have it so bad that we're ready to pick up a gun. We don't even have it so bad that we're ready to go to jail. I only have 15 minutes. There's a lot to talk about here. But if nothing else, take away that strategy at this point is critical. The eyes on the prize routine ain't gonna work. Times have changed. One must move on. There is a very close similarity between Hollywood and politics. The right wing knows it, the left wing does not. That's why we run people like Al Gore and Ralph Nader for president. And I voted for Ralph Nader. Because we don't understand that you got to be a movie star in order to be elected president. Literally. And now you got to be a movie star to be elected governor of California. Ralph Nader is not the most charismatic guy. But you know what? Neither was Bush the first. How many people remember the first Bush? There we go. Well, Bush number one was this nerdy guy that nobody liked. He didn't have any charisma. He had a lot of power. But he really wasn't very photogenic. He just wasn't that guy. So they said, okay, we're going to stick you with Reagan. Reagan was a movie star. Everybody liked Reagan, at least everybody white. Reagan made white people feel good. Bush, nobody really cared about him. But he knew that the only way he was going to get to the White House was behind Reagan. Maybe it's a coincidence that right after he got in office, somebody tried to kill Reagan. I don't know. That would be a conspiracy. I don't get into conspiracy theories. But the point is that Ralph Nader does not need to be running for president. And thankfully this year he's not. Why? Image. Be smart enough to understand that it's image. If you're Ralph Nader, you don't run for president. Ralph Nader's the nerdy guy from high school you wouldn't hang out with. That's who Ralph Nader is. If you're Ralph Nader, you find a really good-looking guy who's articulate and handsome, and you tell him what to say. And he gets elected president. That's strategy. That's just taking that extra step. Like, you know what? Is it superficial? Yes. Is it silly? Yes. But it matters. I'm going to say this here because it's so important. Al Sharpton's haircut matters. It matters. Because he's running for president. It matters. Should it matter? No. But you know what? It does. That's image. Don't be naive about the power of mass media and the power of image. It controls more than you think. I sell angry black politics to 20 million white people a day. How do I do it? Because they're cute. That's it. That's the long and the short of it. If I drew characters that actually look like Huey P. Newton and Louis Farrakhan, I would be drawing this strip in my basement. Nobody would have ever seen it. I said, wow, I wonder what happens if you just take the politics that mainstream America hates and put it in a really cute package. How do they handle it? Hey, I'm seen by 30 million people on Sunday alone. Image. We often complain about black culture, how negative it is. We talk about rappers. We talk about, all the stuff when we talk about the objectification of women. We talk about the nihilism. We talk about all of this stuff. And these are all valid critiques. But one thing I know from the few rappers I do know, a lot of these guys who may not be the most positive guys, they are very serious about the business of entertainment in a way that a lot of the goody guys are not. Understand that no matter what message you have, you better be captivating your audience first, or nobody's going to listen. You know, when I was in high school, 1988 to 1992, roughly, hip-hop wasn't where it is today. It wasn't bitches, it wasn't hoes. There was a lot of niggas, but, you know. The self-destructive nature of where hip-hop is today, it wasn't there. It was actually cool then to be smart. There was like a sort of pro-black nationalism, pan-Africanism thing happening in the culture around that time. And it was cool. Yeah, it was a fad, and like every fad, it passed. But it was cool in that moment in time to be a conscious black individual. Why? Because these people were also serious about the business of making good music, of being entertaining. Yes, we have problems with the gangster rappers of the world. Yes, we can make valid intellectual critiques of what they do. But you know what? They make hits. The Black Eyed Peas are corny. No, let's just be honest. They're corny. And look, I really like the fact that they don't talk about all the things. They don't talk about ICE, and they don't talk about, you know, Bentleys and all. But you know what? I don't listen to them because they're corny. And you cannot move black people if you're corny. Black people are not checking for you if you're corny. Is that right? No. Is it fair? No. Is it kind of silly and superficial? Maybe. But tough. That's the world you live. It's okay to be positive, but still be good. We face this question a lot when you're in Hollywood. Positive black entertainment. And I'm all for positive black entertainment. But again, don't be boring, don't be corny. Find out how to reach your audience and reach them. That's the sophistication that is needed. There's a million black people standing around on a street corner talking politics, and nobody's listening. Nobody. There's a bunch of people with websites writing about conspiracies and writing about what black people need to do. It doesn't matter. The rules have changed. You want to have an impact? Reach people. You want to reach people? It is not easy, but you better figure out a way to do it. And if that means figuring out a way to get into government and breaking these monopolies so that there's actually competition, great. If that means starting a black network to compete with BET and get in 50, 60 million homes, great. But you better think of something. Because pretty soon the 90% that they control is going to be 95, and then it's going to be 99. The type of media control that we're facing now, the impact is staggering on us, black people. We really like to think of ourselves as the most creative geniuses on the planet, right? What the hell is so creative about 13 years of gangster rap? Nothing in rap music has changed in about 13 years. And we're supposed to be so brilliant. We're supposed to be, we feel ourselves on that. Everyone follows us. Yeah, they following us straight to hell. For real. You don't have the luxury of mistakes. Don't have it. Everything you do has to be right. Everything. Now, when it is right, people are so amazed because the expectations of you are so low that you will really be able to achieve amazing things just by having your stuff together. Show up on time, and people are astounded. They are astounded. Should the expectations of black America be so low? No. Is it fair? No. Is it right? No. But that's what it is. That's image. Right now, our image is that of lazy, stupid people that never show up on time. You know, so you know what? Show up on time. Break the mold. Understand not only what the world thinks of you, understand what you think of yourself, and understand who's controlling these images. You know, when I was in high school, Queen Latifah was a black revolutionary. Now she's, you know, bringing down the house. That's a big difference. Now, the Queen Latifah, who was a black revolutionary, was broke. Bringing down the house, Queen Latifah is rich. They call her Dana now. I really want you guys to understand that time is running out. And a lot of black people say that, but for real. Part of why the civil rights movement has been so successful, and part of why those who have come after in terms of our leadership have been able to maintain a presence, is that black people have always had a certain amount of moral currency that we have been using. And let me be the first to tell you, that's used up. White America has been watching us act like fools for a long enough time where any sympathy they may have had to our plight is completely gone. You're approaching a country that, forget hating black people or not hating black people, they just don't care. You can be talking about affirmative action, they can be like, I don't care. It literally is of no importance to me. I don't care about slavery. I don't care about segregation. I don't care about you. I don't care how many of you all go to jail. I don't care at all, because I'm broke. You can't be the proud, noble fighter when every single time someone sees a person that looks like you on television, they're acting like a damn fool. How would they know? How would they know you're not a damn fool? They're going to talk to you? Yeah, right. This is what we're facing. Now, this was not a very motivational speech because I'm not a motivational speaker. I got to be honest. So wait. That don't matter to me. I'm a critic. That's what I do for a living. I'm not here to tell you you can do it because you know what? Maybe you just can't do it. I'm going to be real. I'm going to be real. I hope you can do it. I hope to God you can do it. You better do it. Because if you don't, will you suffer? Yeah. But oh, your kids are going to catch hell. You guys are it. Don't think about Jesse. Don't think about Al. They will not be there. And quietly, well, let me stop. It's on you. This is about as uplifting as I get. It's on you. It's going to be hard. You better do it. And if you don't, I'm moving to Cuba. Thank you very much. The important thing about when you're talking about the corporations that control the information is that, you know, we can look at them, the 5 or 6 or how many of them there are, and we get frustrated and we get angry at them as corporations. But understand those corporations are made up of people. And some of those people are actually just like you and I. And the important thing is to not be so frustrated by the system that you just turn your back completely on the system, which is what so many young conscious people do. And they decide that the way they're going to make a difference, they're going to do their own thing, and no one ever sees it. The reality is that the Boondocks you only see because of corporations. When we do the TV show and the movie, you're going to see it because of Sony, you're going to see it because of Fox, you're going to see it with these same corporations that I'm critiquing right now, because you have to deal with the situation as is. You really, really do. Now, this is me speaking. It's not Huey. Huey would say something different. But I'm saying that you know, when you're talking about strategy, you got to deal with the hand that you're dealt and make the most of it. Michael Moore is a prime example. Michael Moore puts his books out. He's critiquing the same corporations that are publishing the books. And if they drop him, he goes to another corporation. And he's rich. So, you know, Michael's a great example. You should see Bowling for Columbine, but understand you don't have to just go outside the system. You can, but you can also make inroads in the system if you're smart.
All right, let me go to the audience. You know how this works. I need you to make your comments or your questions very brief.
I hear you have a new book out, Mr. McGruder, and I'm wondering what it is and when it's coming out and all that.
We'll let Dr. West speak first.
That's kind of him to give you an opportunity
very
to
great.
plug your book.
Thank you.
We appreciate that,
I'll
young
send
man.
you a royalty check. Thank you very much.
How kind of you, sir.
Real quick on the issue of compromise, you know, don't confuse compromise with strategy. You know, you make the decisions you have to make in order to get your message out to the widest number of people to do the greatest good. Now that's a constant decision. It's a constant process of self-censoring, of being checked by others, because you want to stay in those mediums. And you know, my challenge is always to be truthful and honest while maintaining my client list. Because without the client list, nobody knows who I am. Nobody reads what I'm saying. Since you're going to force me, the new book is called A Right to Be Hostile. It comes out the last week of September, first week in October. And there you go.
All right, thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I'm Samuel Flemings, and I'm a sophomore at Florida A&M University, and I bring you greetings from Philadelphia. It's been said that in order to be a leader, one must lead by example. Now, we were talking about the news. In the past and the present, our celebrities, sport athletes, and even leaders have been made an example of by being spotlighted for doing wrong, committing acts of adultery, and even committing major or minor offenses. How supportive, as leaders, how supportive, forgiving, and even sympathetic do you expect the public to be when news drops that puts their moral character into question?
Well, I mean, look, I don't expect anyone to be perfect. I do expect people to be a little smart. I don't feel sorry for people who are just really stupid. I'm not perfect. No one here is going to claim to be perfect. You know, we all make our mistakes, and certainly, you know, we all going to have a time we're going to ask for forgiveness. But if you're not trying to help yourself, if you're not smart enough to make basic decisions for your own well-being, I have a real hard time investing energy to help you. That's just me. And that covers not just athletes, but a lot of things.
The issue of getting sensitive information through the media has been brought up before, and people have suggested that we should maybe read newsletters from other nations through the internet, so maybe we can see how other countries view America. So my question is directed to Mr. McGruder. How else do you feel that we can get real information through the media about our people?
That was nice for her. She called you Mr. McGruder.
Oh, I know. I'm getting old. I'm getting old. The problem with the internet is, you know, it's a million voices screaming into the darkness. You don't know who you can believe and who you can't. The problem with the mainstream media is that you know you can't believe them. So this question comes up a lot, which is, well, who can you trust? This is why history is so important. Because when you have a true understanding of history, then you can look at what's going on in the world. You can look at the lies they're telling you and read between the lines and get a good grip of what the truth probably is. The reality is there's no easy way to acquire the truth. There's no website I can give you. There's no author I can give you to read. That's why the understanding and knowledge of history is so important, because, you know, anybody can lie and anybody can deceive you. Real quick. Also, take comfort in the fact that a lot of the lies they're telling are not that hard to figure out. It doesn't take, you know, a rudimentary knowledge of history. It doesn't have to get deep, because they are assuming you have no knowledge of history, because most Americans don't.
Over here.
Hi, my name is Shannon Sharper, and I'm from Columbus, Ohio. And I wanted to speak on what Mr. McGruder, he was saying that 90% of the media industry is controlled by 10 people. What would you say would be the best advice for us to try to take back some of the 90%, like, immediately, so we could get our face on there and have a positive image out?
That's one. Someone's got to figure out a way to get the Nazis out of the White House.
Ouch.
I mean, that's a huge problem. But however you got to do it, whether you got to make a whole lot of money so you can buy some senators, look at how the system works. Look at how other people control the government and do what they do. One thing that you have to respect about the right wing is that they will steal, lie, cheat, and murder to maintain power. They do it because that's how the game of international and global politics is played. The problem is what they're lying, cheating, stealing, and killing for. But, understand that this is not a nice game. It's ugly. If you're talking about really getting into the game of power and you're not willing to do whatever it takes, you don't need to get into the game. Al Gore won the election and is not president because he was not willing to do what it took, and Bush was. So, if you be prepared to get your hands real dirty if you're really trying to change things. And again, look at how they do it because they're winning and we're not. And, keep your moral center as best you can, but understand that, look, revolutions, if looking at a place like Cuba, you got a guy like Che, who's an idealist, and you got a guy like Fidel, who's kind of a gangster. And it really does take both. The idealists usually die young, but inspire generations that come after. The gangsters live to run countries.
Good morning, fellow leaders and members of the panel. My name is Fred Schultz, and I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. My question is, are there specific steps that we can take to institutionalize laws that can redefine the limits of the media and begin to show specific positive images that we can portray?
Aaron, I have seen Huey and Riley talking about this FCC stuff in the strip. You want to talk about that?
Remember the limits of my job. I just tell jokes. But look, I'm not trying to be overly pessimistic. There's steps you can take to get Colin Powell's son to break the monopolies. No. They are stronger than you are now. That's why I say look long term at how the right wing does what it does. It involves money, it involves power, it involves connections that are built up over many, many, many years. But be serious about your money, not for the cars and not for the homes, but because money is how is the currency of power in America. It's a capitalist society. Buy a senator, but that's expensive. Congressman maybe a little cheaper. A presidency is really expensive. But I don't know if there's any other way to break the corporations and break the monopolies and to make the FCC bend. Remember that you no longer I'm so glad Dr. West said it. You no longer live in a democracy. So first step is get rid of that illusion that you can somehow vote your way into breaking a corporate stranglehold on media. That's never going to happen. You have to do it another way.
Now, I get a lot of hate mail for letting Aaron McGruder come to my foundation and speak to a room full of 1,000 black youth and telling them they no longer live in democracy. I can hear my phones at my office ringing right now.
Right, but I'm not the only one that said it. He said it too. Empire is an empire. You can be a democracy, you can be an empire, you can't be both at the same time. You can't.
Good morning, my name is Adrian, I'm from Arlington, Virginia, and I got a comment because a young lady said that why most of the times that there's a comment in the news is always bad. There's nothing good about like black folk community or any kind of race. There's the news are always bad, even though some good happens, they'll put it in the news because people want to know what happened to black community or any kind of community, and it's always something bad about them. There's nothing positive about it.
Let me turn that into a question. Why is that? Why is it that every single thing on the media about children of color, young people of color, happens to be negative?
Well, she mentioned Bowling for Columbine, which is why it's so important to see that movie, because he delves into this question. And the basic idea is, if you get teased with a news story saying, the air you're breathing might kill you, film at 11, you gonna watch. And that's about money. That's about scaring you into watching. And I mean, all these terror alerts is scaring you into not only watching the news, but scaring you into doing whatever the government tells you to do. Fear is a very, very powerful manipulative tool, and it is being used to access at this point in history. Propaganda, fear, all this stuff. I mean, to me, that's what it is.
Good morning. My name is John Marsh. I'm a delegate from the Mighty Fourth Region. And my question...
Mighty Fourth Region? Which region is that, though, bro?
That's Michigan and Ohio.
Oh, all right.
And my question is quite simple. Each panelist, please take a stab at it. I want to know how each of you identify your purpose in life. There was some discussion on that earlier this week. So please share that.
I think I figured out my purpose somewhere between Matrix 1 and Matrix 2. Which is to unplug as many people as I can from the system.
Sharina, I'm from Washington, D.C., and I just wanted to say that since there's there aren't any positive images of black people on television, do you think that since the only ones on there that are negative, do you think that black people are so hungry to see other black people on television that we'll just watch anything?
Aaron, you have been deaf on TV and movies starring black people. Why don't you answer that?
Okay, real quick, I don't think all the images of black people on television are bad. I think most of them are bad. To the second question, yes, we will watch anything. That's the short answer.
There's the short answer. Over here, last question.
My name is Tiffany, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York.
Brooklyn.
And I heard that there's a new ruling that allows companies to have more power over the media. How would that affect our ability to redefine our image on television?
It's going to be harder.
Very hard.
Go ahead.
I mean, that's, you know,
and it's not just
it was
television.
hard before, and it's going to be real hard now. And it's a question of balance. Look, I really like Jay-Z. I do. Jay-Z's incredibly talented.
And I like Beyonce.
I like Beyonce. But the issue is not those guys. The issue is that there are other people that are preventing other voices from being heard, so that there's no balance. When I was in high school, there was balance. We had De La, we had Tribe, we had NWA. We listened to all of it. We loved all of it. Now someone else is determining what you are allowed to hear.
Let me do this. I want to give each and every one of our panelists a brief opportunity to share their final thought. And what I would like to do is to say, to get each of you to address the issue of why, in fact, it is that you remain hopeful. I know that Asani Turner is not here. I know that Aaron McGruder is not here. I know that Cornel West is not here. Absent of a reason to believe, absent of some hope. So let me start with you, Aaron, and tell me why it is that despite all the challenges that this generation faces around these media issues, social, political, and economic issues, why it is, in fact, that you, even as a 20-year-old, in your 20s, remain hopeful about your future and about their future.
Look, you know, when I created the strip, all conventional wisdom said it would never be seen, and I personally thought it would never be seen. And the fact that I can look at what I do and see its distribution, see its reach, see the things that I've been able to accomplish in the context of what I'm saying and how strongly it opposes, you know, what the government is saying, what the media is telling you. And I've found a way to use these same mainstream channels to get a different voice through does give me hope. You know, I can't say everything is terrible, because if it was, I wouldn't be here. I would not have a career. So clearly, things are possible. It's just a question of finding the right way to go about it.